In this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through creating this insert for a video box cover. In the process, we're going to talk a lot about grouping, clipping masks, and working in isolation mode. Let's start by creating a new document. I'm going to go to Print and Tabloid, and we're going to work in Landscape, create it. Now first, I'm going to create a layer for my guides. Start off by creating the back cover, which is going to be 5 inches wide by 7 inches tall. And I can simply hold down the Option and the Shift and drag this to duplicate it. Now I'm going to create another rectangle, and this will be for my spine, which will be just a 1/2 inch by 7 inches high. And I've got my smart guides turned on, so this should just snap into place. You should see it line up. Make sure this one is lining up properly. Okay. Now I want to have an outside perimeter for my bleed areas. That'll be 1/8 of an inch all the way around. So that would be 5, 5. That's 10, 10.5 plus another. Let's say we do 1/8 of an inch all around, so that would be 1/4 of an inch for each dimension. So that would be 10.75 inches wide by 7.25 inches high. I'll give this a no fill and put it into place approximately here. And then I'm going to select all of these and align horizontally so that everything's lined up. Now I want these to be guides, and by that I mean I want to use them as reference, but I don't want them to print. So I'm going to select all of these and go up to View, Guides, and Make Guides. Now they turn into this light blue color. This will not print, and in my layers I've already named these guides, so I'm going to lock that layer so nothing can move. Now I'm going to create a new layer, and this will be for my crop marks. So I'm going to go ahead and name this one crop marks. So crop marks will be for the trim area. Now if we were doing this the document to the exact size of the insert, we would add the bleed when we set up the new document. But I'm showing you a different way of doing it. If you had to create a mechanical, say that was floating in the middle of the page, you might have different elements that are all on a single page. You may need to know how to create your own crop marks. So that's what we're going to be doing in this case. So I'm going to create a rectangle with no fill and no stroke that is the same size as my trim area, which would be my front back cover and my spine. And then I will go to Effect, Crop Marks, and it's a little hard to see, but if I zoom in, you can see it has created, zoom in here, you can see it has created crop marks. Okay, now for mechanicals, they also need to know where folds are going to be in the paper. So, and by the way, a mechanical is the artwork that you would give the printer, and he would use that to actually create the printed pages. So I'm going to put, bring up my rulers and drag a guide out for my spine, each side of the spine. And then I'm going to put in just a stroke here. That one doesn't seem to be lined up perfectly. So to move it, I have to go in here and Guides, Unlock Guides, select this one guide and see if I can get it exactly on my spine. Now if you can't get it exactly, move it away and then come back to it, and that gives you a better chance of getting it dead on. There, that feels better. Now I will go back up here and make sure that I lock the guides, Guides, Lock Guides. And I'm going to use my pen tool and just create a stroke, to create a path right here, and I will give that a stroke of black. 0.25 is probably good, maybe a half would be good. This is going to be a dashed line. The dashed line indicates that it is a fold area. So let's see if I make that 6. Maybe I'll make it 5 or 4. So this is how big the dashes will be. So that looks a little better to me. And I can use my selection tool, Option Shift, copy that over here, select both of these, and I could then zoom out, move up here, group them, and then use the Option Shift to drag them down. It's a little hard to grab them when I'm out this far. Maybe I'll just copy them, Command C, and then I'll come down here to the bottom and Command V, and then just try to move them down into place with my arrows. So that's pretty good. If we hide the guides, we can see we've got our crop marks and we've got our dotted lines for our folds. Command semicolon will hide the guides or reveal the guides. Even if you're working on a different layer, it will hide the guides. It hides all guides. All right, so my dotted line should be basically at bleed, outside of bleed, because we want to make sure that they do not print, but they can be right at bleed. Okay, now I want to lock both of those layers, and I want to create a new layer for my images. So call this one Images, or Artwork, because it's also going to be typography on here, so I'll just call it Artwork. I'm going to start by placing the key art. Key art is the artwork that establishes the look and feel of the show. So in this case, we have got key art for Law and Order, the TV show that we are creating. So I'm going to do Place, and I'm going to go into my file here and take my key art. Once you've done the Place command, the artwork is attached to your cursor, and you can either just click and it will place the art at 100% the size of the artwork, or you can click and drag and create the size that you want it to be. So I'm going to create the size I want by clicking and dragging, and mainly I'm interested in the bleed top and bottom because I know I'm going to have more on the side than I need. It's not bad as far as the placement of these guys. I think I'll just leave it there. I could move it over if I wanted to get more of this side in, but I think it's fine. Now, to crop it, I'm going to just put a rectangle on top of this, exactly from bleed, top and bottom, and right side, and then exactly aligned to the spine, to the fold. And it could have a fill or no fill, it doesn't matter. In this case, mine doesn't have a fill, which is fine. I just need to select them both. And then either in Properties or under Object, you can make a clipping mask, and that will trim off the extra. Now I think it'd be helpful just so we can define the whole size of our box if we put a colored background in that filled the entire space. So I'm just going to make a rectangle that goes from bleed to bleed, and I'm going to make it about the color of, that feels like it's a little bit shy of bleed, so I want to bring that down. So I'm just going to start out with a black and then move it to the background. So it's in the back. And now I can use my eyedropper and sample, say, a color from inside this image. So this will be kind of a blue-black rather than just a straight black. So I'll go with that. And I'm going to lock that so it doesn't move around. So to lock it, the key command is just Command 2. So now that's locked. Might as well lock the front too, Command 2. So I can't, by mistake, select either one of those and move them around. Now let's place an image on the background, on the back cover here. So I want a scene from New York City. I think I will use Brooklyn Bridge. So let's go ahead and place that. I'll go in here and place my image of bridge. And now in this case, I'm just going to click and it will place it at 100% of the size of the actual image. I'll move it about into place, and then I'm going to make a clipping mask using the rectangle again, and I'll go exactly from the spine and then bleed top and bottom and left side, and select both of those and make the clipping mask. Now I can move this around by using the direct select arrow, the white arrow, if I wish. But I think, see this, I think, well, maybe I'll move it over here just a little bit to the left. Now this has a lot of contrast in it. I want to put typography over this. I want to put the logo over, the show logo over it. And I want to have a row of inset photos of the characters. So I want this to be toned down. So here we're going to go into isolation mode and do a little trick. So I'm going to click on the bridge, double click on the bridge. Now I'm in isolation mode. I can see, I know I'm in isolation mode because everything is grayed out and I can't click on anything else. I can only click on the bridge. Now what I want to do is place a rectangle that is the same color as the blue that's on the front cover. And I happened to sample that previously, so I know what the color is. It's actually in CMYK, it's 90, and then I'll hit the tab key, and 50, and 36, and 11. So that's the color I want, but I need to see the bridge, obviously. So I'm going to go up to Window, Transparency, and in the Transparency panel, I can choose my blend mode. So I'll go to Multiply, and then maybe I'll lower this down just a little bit. And we can always come back. See, this is the thing about working this way, is this is non-destructive, and we can always come back into isolation mode and modify this if we need to. I'll close this up, hit Escape to get out of isolation mode. I'm going to hit the Command and semicolon to hide all my guides for a moment and see how this is looking. Okay, so at the moment that seems pretty good. Now let's go ahead and place our images of our characters in the background. Command-Shift-P is the place command. And I'm going to place the female detective first. And I'm just going to click and place her. Now she's going to be way too small for this. I'm going to actually have to make her a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to arbitrarily set a size. She has to go to bleed. So go in there and make sure that I'm at bleed. I think it has to go over just a little bit. And now let's place another character, Command-Shift-P, and let's do the detectives, but I'm really going to just use one of the detectives. So let me place them. I just click to put them at 100%. I'll get him to approximately the same size as her, and we're going to use a clipping mask to get rid of the excess. It also occurs to me that it might be nice to have a black box behind them, but I'll do that after I do the clipping mask. I'm going to clip him right now, so we can have clipping masks inside of clipping masks. So I'm going to put a rectangle over him and select both his image and the rectangle and make the clipping mask. So there we've got that one. Now let's place another image. By the way, this is called unit photography. And unit photography means that it's photography that was shot during the filming or the taping of the show. So it's not the greatest quality in terms of lighting and focus and all that you might want. And if it was just doing still photography, you'd probably get a much nicer image as far as pose and lighting and all of that. The benefit of unit photography is, well, it's inexpensive for one thing, and it has the authenticity because it feels like the show, because it was shot during the show. So it is authentic. And so I'm going to, in this case, I'll use both of them. I'm going to use both of these characters in one shot. It's going to have to be a little bit smaller, I think. And so I'm going to hold, in Illustrator, as we scale, we have to hold down the Shift key. So I think something about like that. And I'm going to probably have them over here like this. Now I'm going to go ahead and put a clipping mask on them. I want these two, and I'm going to want to go to exactly to the spine. So I'll have to double check that in a minute. Clip. Okay. So not too bad. Let me zoom in here a little bit. I want to get him direct. Now this is very poor quality, so I'm not happy with this. Because it's very pixelated. That's one of the issues with unit photography, is it's often not high quality. So I think it will help if I reduce the size hold down the shift, and that will make the quality somewhat better. Okay, so now I want the image to be exactly on the fold, so I'm going to bump it over here a little bit, or yeah, I'm just going to bump it over this way a little bit. Okay, that looks good. Now for my crop, I want to bring this in. Now we should, with the direct select arrow, we should be able to click on a segment of the cropping box, the masking box. If we click on a segment, which is between the anchor points, we should be able to move just that edge. So that's pretty good. I'm going to want to make sure, I'm going to bump this over a little bit. Get more of her in. We are going to crop out this piece of paper on the desk. It's a little distracting. Now I want to make sure that my space here and here is exactly the same. So I'm going to take my rectangle tool and just create a little box here. I'll make it white with no stroke, and then I'm going to move it over here and make sure that this clipping mask box goes right to that edge. And then be sure you get rid of this. Okay, so now we're going to crop this off so that they're all the same height. I'm going to create a mask from bleed to spine. Probably something like that. And now I'm going to select each one of my photos and then make a clipping mask. And it clips them all together at the same time. Now I think it'd be nice if we had a black box behind them so that we have a black bar between both of them. So I'm going to make this black, and I'm going to send it backwards. Arrange, send backward. Okay, now I also want it to be centered for sure on these images. So I'm going to select the images as well and then align it horizontally. That shifted it just a little bit. I'm going to put an outer glow on this black box. So that would be under Effect, Stylize, Outer Glow. I'm going to give it kind of a, keep it in the blue shades, but very light. It's on screen. And you can see the glow now. It looks pretty good at 79. Maybe I'll make it slightly darker, more opaque. So we've got this glow on it. But now one problem with the glow is it's glowing onto the spine. Let's try a clipping mask on this background. So I'm going to do Command C, Command F. And on this one, I will take off the outer glow. This needs to be above the glow. So I'm going to go in here. Here's my 2. This one has to be above. Hold down the shift. I can select them both. Now I think I can now do a clipping mask. Make. But see, now if I can open up the top and bottom, I may be able to get my glow back. That did what I wanted it to do. It cropped off the glow where it overlapped the spine. This is off a little bit, so I think I'm just going to put a new rectangle on top here just to make sure that everything is aligned right along that edge. This still feels like it's slightly off, and also notice that it's getting cropped off. So that's because the glow is too wide. So either I can make this box bigger, so you have to be careful here because you need to get just the box edge. You pull that up. So you need just the edge of that segment. Pull it down. You want to make sure you don't see any hard edges there. And then this looks like it has to go over slightly. Okay. I think that's working pretty well. double check. That's clean. This looks like it needs to be maybe a tad wider there, just to make sure. So that'll be right on the fold. So if it went slightly one side of the fold, I feel better about that than if there's any bit of a sliver of the, say, the background showing in the spine area where it should not be. Okay, now let's go ahead and place the logo. So I've got one for the front, and it should be pretty big and probably centered. So I need this one centered exactly. So I'm going to make a new box here like this and pull out a guide to the center. Show my guides. Get rid of this one. Make sure that this then is centered. I don't want it to be centered from the spine to the bleed. I want it to be centered from the spine to trim. So that looks pretty good. And we could put a dark glow on this one. So I'm going to go into Stylize and Outer Glow, make this dark, multiply. And that should help that pop out. We could go into the blues if we want to keep in color range of our show. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to copy this, Option Shift, drag it over here to the back, and it can be a lot smaller over here. Now that I have this back here, I'm not happy with the bridge in this position. So I'm going to come into my artwork, and I don't mind if it's overlapping it a little bit. I think that looks pretty good. And now I'm going to, I'll make a guide to align with the logo. And then I'll put my type, my copy, go down here, bump that over so it lines up. That needs to be obviously white. So I'll go into my properties, make the type white, and so it's got, you know, I would choose the font that I want. 12 point is not too bad. Maybe I'll go up to 14 for the back. Let's say this is behind the scenes or features on the DVD or something like that. And pull it out a little bit and go in here and add a few returns as if this were kind of bullet points or something. And there we have it. Turn off the guides. These would be all uppercase to begin with. Of course, you'd have real copy in here. Now, you could have a lot more, obviously, on the back, but that basically is how I would go about creating the insert if it was going to be floating on a page rather than being created at the same size as the document.